Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, whatever time it is that you are joining us here on Speaking by Faith. It's Stephen Higley and I again. We're continuing through the book of John, the Gospel of John. And today we plan on finishing up chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. And then we're going to jump to chapter 3. And we'll read a few verses there just to get what's going on, and then mainly we're going to talk about the man Nicodemus, and kind of for the future videos that you will see, we're going to really focus on Nicodemus and Jesus' conversation. So y'all just plan for that. I'm trying to be really prepared for that because, in my opinion, it's a very important subject that's talked about. But anyway, so today we're in the book of John, chapter 2. Stephen, do you want to add anything before we start reading?
Nope, carry on.
All right. Well, John chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. And again, I'm reading from New King James Version. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, during the feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself to them because he knew all men, and had no need that anyone should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. Now, let me turn my page. I don't have too much on these verses, but I've never picked up the main thing that I've never noticed before. I'm just now realizing I didn't have my notes pulled up either. But I've never noticed that he says signs and was doing, but then I think it's later on, or it's already been said that there they are, that he did not do any miraculous signs while he was in Jerusalem. I'm trying to get to my notes. I'm sorry. I thought I already had them pulled up, and I did not. I don't know why you invite me on this podcast.
Because we are brethren. And we're human beings, like everybody else.
All right, so where it says he did many. Now, where is it in the text where it says that he did not do some things he did not do in Jerusalem?
I mean, John 2 verse 11 says the beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee.
I see where I've got messed up now. John, it's odd that says he says signs in verse 23, which he was doing, or which he did. Depends on which translation you're reading. But John never recorded any signs in Jerusalem other than that non-miraculous sign that we talked about last week during the temple cleansing. So, is that a contradiction? That's what some people have tried to say. Is it contradicting, because John didn't record it? Well, that just means he didn't record it. But he's just telling us here that while Jesus was there, he was doing many signs. I think closer to the end of the gospel, John even says that, Jesus done many, many more things. We could fill up many books of all the great things that he did, but they just didn't record all of them. I've never noticed that John did not record a miraculous sign that Jesus done in Jerusalem in his gospel until I've read that in the commentary, and I thought that was pretty neat, or significant. And then again in verse 23, we see the point of the signs or the things that Jesus done. So many people believed in his name. They believed who he was. I've been trying to do it when I'm in my Bible. I've been trying to mark down by every verse where it talks about where someone believed in him. I'm trying to, take note of all those verses because that's going to come into the play of, it does come into play when you look at the overall scheme of the book of John, where you're going to have people that truly believed in him fully, and then you're going to have people that are shown that they believed, but they did not obey. I think that's a very important thing that listeners, readers of the book of John need to take note of, that there's people that believed in Jesus, but they were still condemned. I always call them the condemned believers. That's how I have it labeled in my Bible. When I find them, I underline it that, and they're just condemned believers. They believe, but they did not obey. Do you have anything on verse 23?
No.
Not much there.
No.
There's a whole...
I think you've already pretty much nailed it for me.
Yeah. And there's a whole lot more that could be said about something with the Passovers. I think you've mentioned before how many Passovers that Jesus actually attended. I think don't the Synoptic Gospels only cover 2 of them, but John covers 3 or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of that stuff I see in these commentaries, it's like, that's not really that important. It's not, to talk about. Verse 24. But Jesus did not commit himself to them because he knew all men. What do you have on that, Stephen?
What I've done in my notes is I just combined 24 and 25 together.
Okay.
All right. And then I have a thing under that as well. That's all I have. But
I got you. Well, I'll go through what I have.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we'll let you do it. Jesus did not commit himself. I've got 2 different views on that. I've read 2 different views on that. It means that the one that I think that he's meant, like, he did not commit himself to them because he knew them. I read somewhere they said that they was wanting to kill him here. He knew that they was wanting to hurt him. And so that's why he didn't really hang around there, and he left because he knew what they was wanting to do to him. And I forget where I read that at. I can't remember if it was something on Christian Courier or in another commentary. I don't know. But we do know, we see here that there was something wrong with these men because, in the last part of that verse, it says, because he knew all men. Basically, he knows what's in their heart. Jesus knew what was in their heart. And then verse 25, and had no need that anyone should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. Again, it's almost, again, here, just the other view, he's not trying to commit. It's like he's not trying to get these people here to fully commit him because he didn't need any of these people to testify of him. There's 2 different views. I really didn't want to get too much into it. I honestly, I didn't really understand it. So that's about all I have. That basically there was something wrong with these people, and Jesus knew it. He knew there was something not quite right with them, and he didn't need them. He didn't need them to testify of for him. All right, what do you have?
I said our Lord's accurate knowledge of the human heart is another evidence of his deity, for only God can see the inner person. This brief paragraph prepares us for the important interview with Nicodemus recorded in the next chapter. Note the repetition of the word man in John 2:25 to 3:1. Nicodemus wanted to learn about Jesus, but he ended up learning more about himself. Then I have Jeremiah 17, verse 10.
And see, that's where I got confused. I can't connect. It was something with the word man when in chapter 3, and they refer back to chapter 2, the end here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand it. And so I'm just going to, if I fully can't understand something, I'm not going to try to explain it myself, So some stuff Macy always told me, Alex, if you can't explain it to a child and they understand it, you need to study it more you need to study this more. You need to be able to explain it to a child so they can understand before you start trying to explain it yourself.
It's all about the application point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously, I think when you look at this section here, pretty much what I just read, but it's interesting here that he knew all men, 24, and he knew what was in man. And so it's interesting there that he the plural, but the men there is the men in your Bible italicized? Can you see that?
No, I copy and paste. And
Great. Well, that's totally fine. Well, in my Bible, it was italicized, the word men, the first one. Second one is in there. It's probably the word anthropos, but
it is when I open up my Bible app on my phone. On my tablet. Sorry, it is italicized.
Yeah.
Man,
okay.
Man is not.
Right.
Okay.
So in John 2:25. So because he knew all, essentially there that they added the word men in there.
Yeah.
But to me, but Jesus did not commit himself to them because he knew all.
Yeah.
And then he knew what was in man. And so to me, the first one's dealing more with the general. To me, I think it'd be dealing with this. He has the general knowledge of what's happening, and that's the idea of commit. And then that general knowledge of what's happening then just goes toward, because I know what was in the man.
I see what you're saying. And that kind of fits in kind of with that wherever it was I read that maybe possibly they had evil intentions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's I never thought about that. I wonder if that word men and 24 is that anthropos?
That is added. All the word all I would assume that's probably the word pos, which is all or everyone. I haven't looked at that at all. That's just me just throwing it out there. Can you look at it? You got that ability on your phone? The tap.
That's what I'm doing.
Tap the word.
It doesn't tell me in verse 24 what it is.
About the word all?
It is pos.
It's pos. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But men's probably a blank.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's kind of odd.
Because that's been added.
But wouldn't they even? They said that. It's kind of why wouldn't they just let you know what word it was that they added, what it meant? I mean, because obviously they had some thought process of why they put me in there.
Is it in a footnote?
No, I did not, and that's the first thing I look for. So I don't know.
I don't know the answer. That's a great question.
Well, that's a good answer though. If you don't know something, you don't know it. But man in verse 20. Man in verse 25 is anthropos, so yes.
Yeah. And see, and there's, and inside of the Bible here, there are several Greek words that are referring to kind of, like mankind or man. Anthropos is typically seen as the singular man, whereas you can have other word like ethnos, which is the plurality, and that's the word ethnicity.
I thought anthropos was for all mankind. No.
Now sometimes it can be translated like that depending on the last tense.
Okay.
Where it might be like anthropoi type thing, like POI at the end. It may be, and that's more of the plural.
Yeah.
But anthropos would be a singular, and so that's why it's translated as was in man, not was in men.
Well, I have used that wrong in many sermons.
Sometimes it is. And then you have like anthropology, the study of mankind.
Okay. See, you're when I've done this, you're over.
Okay. But that's the idea though, is that anthropos by itself just is singular.
I'm laughing at myself, but I'm glad you said that, because now I'll know to pay a little bit more attention when I am looking at certain words. I mean, because it is important when you're preaching and teaching to know that. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that. So now I'll know to pay a little bit more attention to that. I like that, Dave. But
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, and yeah, it's all about the last letter or two, like anthropoi.
Yeah.
Will be plural, like kind of like okay. Another example will be like adelphos is brother, but
Yes.
adelphoi is brethren.
Yes.
So it's plural.
Okay, I knew that one. I forget where I was listening to. I think it's somewhere. I think it's probably Brother Gary Hampton's video in Acts. He talks about that a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's either him or someone else. They was referencing when Peter was saying brethren. They was somebody was trying to say that they was saved already because he called them brethren. Well.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking of. Just for you kind of see the difference there.
Okay.
But.
Well, I learned something. I'm glad that I'm not that I haven't learned nothing from you.
I have a visitor. Hang on.
All right. That's no problem.
What you want? Say hello, Mr. Alex.
Hi.
Hey, dude.
We're talking about the Bible.
You have a nice head.
You want to say anything about the Bible?
Mm-mm.
What are you doing?
I was asking you. It's almost all day, and I want to go for a bike ride.
Yeah, I know. Let me finish this, okay, and then we'll go for a bike ride.
Okay, but I'm going to stay right here.
No, I need Jet Baby. Cause, no, go on. Watch movie. I'll be done in a minute, okay?
I don't know what this is.
Hey, please go see a movie. Mama's waiting for you.
That's cool,
Unscripted.
Man. That's cool, man.
Yeah. My bike's got a flat tire, so I have to take it into a bike shop to get it fixed so we can get out for a bike ride. But I want to do that here in a little bit. Hey, can you please go watch the movie? And I'm nearly done, okay? Cubby. Hey, boy. I'm taking a nap. Okay, well, let's keep on going. I think I should be okay.
Yeah, so we're done with chapter 2.
Okay.
I told you last time I really like this commentary because it has an application part. I didn't want to do it for chapter 2 because he had so much stuff that would it was so much application. Basically, I would be ruining. We'd have to jump ahead so much because he involved. Basically, he goes over all the miracles. We need to notice these miracles, why they're being done. So everyone can believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
But overall application of chapter 2 again, we need to see why Jesus done the things that he done, so people would believe in him, and that's why John is writing this gospel. We don't need to get hung up on the wine thing. If it's alcoholic, non-alcoholic, we need to see that they believed because of the miraculous sign. And another thing, like we talked about last week, we need to start, when you're reading your Bible, pick up on these non-miraculous things that Jesus done. That's there. That's him going into the temple and fulfilling prophecy. And then these Pharisees and whoever was there, they just overlooked. They either didn't recognize it or they was doing it blindly, ignorantly. They was doing it on purpose, not acknowledging who he was. But again, John chapter 2, believe in Jesus. Believe he is the Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And today, he knows what's in our hearts. He knows all. He knows what's in man.
Yes, yeah. And as we go to John 3, I do want to make this little comment, is that John in the settings are really written more kind of like as an accordion, okay? When it goes like more private, small group, one-on-one to public, now again back to private, small group, one-on-one, then back to public, and he does that all the way through, kind of like the accordion. So, So John 1 starts off, most part pretty private, small group. John 2, big miracle, at the wedding. Yep. Oh, very public. Killed a fly. Look at that. Give me $1. And then it goes to John 3, and that goes to private now Nicodemus.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see that all the way through John's the accordion.
That's another neat thing. I tell you, I know you're probably tired of hearing me tell you this, and everybody else is probably tired of hearing it. I've really enjoyed this study, man, because it just teaches you to just read the Bible and really just read it again.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
we miss so much stuff, man. I did my entire life. Some stuff I just read over and never picked up on it. And then when you start reading it verse by verse and then reading it again, and then find you a good commentary, and it's like, oh wow, never noticed that. I don't know, for long I'm going to have to get a different Bible. I'm going to have so much stuff marked.
Well,
I don't know what I'm going to do,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you have to kind of be mindful too, because some stuff's just kind of like way out there. But I mean, to me, you can always learn something from somebody, even if they're kind of out with the fairies, as they say. Let's kind of find something somewhere.
I learned that a long time ago. I'm going to tell you the story, then we'll get to chapter 3. But you can learn something from anybody. No matter how experienced you think you are, we can learn from the smallest person.
Oh, definitely.
When I'd been in the oil field for probably, 10 years. Or no, not that long. About 6-7 years. I was a night pusher, and I needed a trash drum, a metal drum. I needed it cut open to make it just a trash can. And told this one fella to go do it. And I was watching him, and he was bebopping around there, and I seen him get a hammer and a pipe wrench. And he was I'm like, what is he doing? And this was back before I was not a Christian, not a faithful Christian, I would say that. And so there was some hollering going on, me, him, and I was calling him some certain words that I shouldn't have been saying to him. Not all vulgar, but I talked to him very badly. And you don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? That's not. And finally, he gets me to just stop and just watch. And he got that pipe wrench, and he opened up that 55-gallon metal drum with a pipe wrench and a hammer. And as he opened it up, it peeled it over and where it wasn't sharp either, so it wouldn't cut you. Huh. And the best thing I ever learned in my life, I was like, man, well, look at this. But so that just goes to, no matter how much experience you have, sometimes just stop and listen to people, and you'll learn something. You learn something from anybody.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can't learn from what they say, you can learn from what they do.
Exactly.
Because sometimes, especially growing up, I learned this a lot. Because I don't know. Because I would always kind of, everyone was my friend. All the way through school. And so there were some times when there were some people that were, and you could tell they were not mentally stable. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And and I'll tell you this, like we had one girl in my high school, her name was Anna, sweet girl, but she would tell me and one other guy the same joke every single day. Every day. And sometimes, also, we're going to laugh with her and really carry on and everything. But, you didn't learn a thing about anything that she said. And that's not a thing. There's nothing going on. She's going to like rock your world. But you can learn how she treated people. Learn how she was friendly with everybody. She had no bad motive or intention. She just wants to see someone else's day made happy by her joke. Wisdom wise, she probably won't ever have that. And that's fine, but you can learn what she's doing. And so,
exactly.
And I know a lot of people, really say, well, that's just because they can't communicate. That means that they can't be worth anything to society. Well, I think that's entirely wrong.
Oh, yeah. Mark talked about that Sunday. He said, the old saying, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk, well, it's good that you talk the talk, but sometimes your walk is louder than your talk.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that's that's very good.
Well, mention that because I did this yesterday. Then we got to get to John 3. Is if you look at the book of James, and I've been doing that over here at my congregation. We're about finished with it. And I went through the other day and I wrote out all the times that had something dealing with speaking and on one side of a list versus doing on the other side of a list.
Yep.
In book of James, okay? Not in John, this is now in James.
Yep.
And what I found was a lot of what James is talking about is, you're going to say one thing and you better be backing it up. Okay? But James emphasizes more, in the list I wrote, more on doing rather than saying.
Yeah.
Which I find that very interesting.
Yeah, it's very, I've told you many times I go to the book of James, and if I'm talking to somebody once saved, always saved, and show them that, well, because they got to pick the poison there, but that's a good study there. I like that. I like that idea.
Mm.
I might use that. Sometimes I get called on to do a devotional.
Oh, yeah.
Or I maybe fill in for Dad on Sunday morning. I might try to use that next time, just get the whiteboard up and start. Let's go to the book of James and do and speak, and let's write them out.
And there's a few verses that has the same, it's a word difference, do and say, say and do,
That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
It's pretty neat. But anyway, that's kind of goes right along with this. But anyway, let's go into John 3 now about old Nicodemus for a few minutes.
All right. Well, John 3. I'm just gonna read the first 2 verses here. And then we're just going to talk about who Nicodemus is. Who is this Nicodemus? John chapter 3. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. This man came to Jesus by night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God, for no one can do these things that you do unless God is with him. So, Nicodemus, who was he? Who is he? Just by the verse, just by reading the verse and just getting it from the verse, we see that he was a man of the Pharisees. He was a Pharisee. And that's a fairly, that's a good ranking. How the Jews was, they kind of ranked themselves, and the Pharisees always thought themselves higher than any other sect, I guess you could say. They had a lot more power, if I do remember correctly. And
they had a lot more. The Pharisees were the big group compared to the other 2. So the 3 big groups. The major 2 groups are the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and then you have another group called the Essenes that are around a good bit. But the Pharisees had the most people, but the Sadducees probably had the most rank.
Okay. Well, I had it backwards then.
That's okay. Easy to do. I do all the time.
So he was a ruler of the Jews. I always took that as consideration. He was part of the Sanhedrin. Is that what you think too?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it really don't matter. That's what I think the most people say, that he was part of the Sanhedrin. So that would make me go to think anytime that we see where people was sent to question John the Baptist, maybe Nicodemus was one of those ones, because this would have been the group that was overseeing the Jews. So he was a Pharisee. He was part of the Sanhedrin. And I think that what the Sanhedrin was made up like is 70 people, correct? 70 men?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. The sitting ones. Yeah.
The
Sanhedrin.
one?
Yeah, the sitting ones. The ones that have authority based on the law of Moses.
Okay. So, but
Don't worry about
basically,
it.
if you don't know what the Sanhedrin is, they're basically the governing body of the Jews. That's what they did. They looked over them, and a lot of them basically, from you read through Scripture, they're really they was bad people. They just been corrupted. They let the love, basically. What's the verse? They love the praise of men. They love their positions. What's
You get Matthew 23, 1-5 there. Matthew 15, verses 1-9, about traditions and such. But
basically these people, they was corrupted, and they loved all the power. A lot of them, they liked that money that they was getting to their corrupt businesses that they had going on. Kind of like you hit on a little bit about Caiaphas last time. Caiaphas. Annas was doing it.
The father-in-law.
Yeah, father-in-law. Him. So that's what group he was part of. Do you have anything else on that? On verse 1?
I have a lot on verse 1.
You have a lot.
Verse 1.
Go ahead.
So what I've got is Pharisees. Pharisees means separated ones. Nicodemus. The name could mean the conqueror of people. The Greek might be victorious or innocent blood, according to the Hebrew. That's from Quitman, Woods, and Schaefer. As the Jews gave not only Hebrew but also Greek and Latin names to their children, but meanings at last met in Nicodemus. You see the gradual unfolding of his faith appears in stages in the book of John. You have it right here where he's mentioned, John 7, verse 50, and then finally in John 19, verse 39. Tradition adds that he afterwards, having publicly acknowledged the doctrine of Jesus and having been baptized by John and Peter, he was deposed from his office and banished from Jerusalem. But he was supported in a country seat by his kinsman Gamaliel until his death, according to tradition.
Now, where did you read that or get that he did obey the gospel?
That's from a guy named Photius, and that was found in the commentary by Raymond Brown.
By Raymond Brown, that's
he's a
pretty
Catholic.
Neat.
Yeah, but that's a guy named Photius. Inside of his book, I would assume it's cut off here. I assume it's Biblio something.
That's pretty neat. I've never heard that. That's why when you said that, I was like, oh wow, that's neat though, man.
That's according to tradition.
Yes. Yeah, I understand that, but that's a neat thing to that's neat. Other thing I seen, Josephus had recorded that there was a wealthy Jew by that name in Jerusalem in AD 70, but there's nowhere. It's uncertain if that was actually Nicodemus or not. So, who knows?
Yeah, I've got that. Josephus speaks of a Nicodemus who was sent as a legate of the Maccabean Aristobulus to Pompey. And Aristobulus is the one that was the king of the Jews who was led through the streets in AD 63.
Oh, okay.
That's who that is. And then I've got a ruler of the Jews here, which is a title reserved in rabbinic literature for a great man or a prince, according to Quitman. Sanhedrin, the sitting together ones, 70 members. You mentioned that one. He was among the most religious of the religious and among the most moral of the moral. Nicodemus pops up again in John 7:45 and following for his defense of Jesus, showing that the law did not condemn a person without a trial. However, it was in such a way as to not involve personal commitment. He also shows up again asking for the body of Jesus in John 19:39-40, and he brought about 100 pounds of spices for the body of Jesus.
I
Yeah.
I like I've always or assumed that Nicodemus, because of his actions, I think he obeyed.
Sure, definitely.
I mean, I just I know there's no scripture authority to say that, but you see him just by the stuff that he did. If he didn't believe or didn't care for Jesus, you think, why would he worry about getting him down from the cross? Why would he worry about bringing spices for his body? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I think it'd be neat. We'll find out one day. If we get to heaven and he's there.
Yeah.
Be neat.
Well, what's I find interesting though about that tradition thing that I read a minute ago is that the one that supported him when he was deposed from his office was and banished from Jerusalem was Gamaliel.
Yeah.
And that's Paul's teacher.
Yes.
And that's the one in the book of Acts. He really takes center stage a lot in the early days of Acts, anyways. About what we have our ideas to go to the Gamaliel and ask him what we should do, and he tells them something. And he was, I feel, always very lenient with Christians, and it's interesting that he still is showing, if this is accurate tradition, his leniency toward Christians again, even Nicodemus who converted, but.
Yeah. I wonder if Gamaliel ever converted. I don't know. You read anything on that?
I haven't read anything, but I don't know. It's been said though. So this is one thing. I'm actually doing a book about this myself, but so the Jews, okay, because you have a lot of inside of the Gospels, and this is dealing with Gamaliel. Okay, this is free for nothing. Okay, so for a Jew, that they based whether or not somebody was in the kingdom on obviously doing the sacrifices and the pilgrimages and stuff, but also on doing the Shema. And that's found in Deuteronomy 6, where you say, I will love, Lord my God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then you say that repeatedly. And there's a few more words in there from Deuteronomy 6 there, but that's called the Shema. Apparently, or the Shema. Apparently, Gamaliel, it's been a while. I want to say said that like 7 times a day. And so the idea then, if that was how they dictated whether or not someone's in the kingdom, under the Old Testament, then Gamaliel was, without any shadow of doubt, in the Old Testament idea of kingdom. Now, obviously, for the New Testament, the church is the new kingdom.
Yeah.
The church is now the spiritual kingdom, and then you see that as you go through John, and also Matthew has a good bit. Actually, all of the Bible elaborates that very, very frankly for us. But anyway, it's interesting there that Gamaliel though was said that without any shadow of doubt he's in the kingdom, but that's according to the Jew. But obviously, I don't know if he was in the New Testament kingdom. We don't know, but that's just an extra food for thought there.
One day we will.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe. Hopefully he is. It'd be good if he was, but it'd be quite a cool thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Verse 2.
Yep.
This man came to Jesus by night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. I'd always, the commentary I'm reading, he has 4 different reasons or various reasons why Nicodemus came to him at night. I always just assumed he'd come at nighttime because he was scared. That's what I've always heard. That's what I've always just assumed or thought. But this he gives a few more, 3 others besides him being feared of the other Sanhedrin of the Pharisees. The other one is some people try to say observing John's use of the words in different senses. I see a metaphorical use of night as a hint of moral or spiritual darkness. Another view or reason is people think that he met Jesus at night simply to have a private audience with him, because these rabbis, they normally studied and debated long into the evening, and then they would, so that would mean that Nicodemus was later at night, so that's when he would have time to go talk with Jesus. And the last one says the record of Nicodemus's visit at night may be a simple factual reminiscence. I mean, we really don't know why it was not. It may have just been the best time for Nicodemus to do this. But I would probably more than likely hold he done it at night because maybe he was fearful of the other Jews.
Cubby, it's 2:40, 52 in the afternoon. We have plenty of time to go for bike riding.
And bless his heart.
Yeah. So I think my notes pretty well agree with that. What I've got, I've only got 3 reasons though. You got 4, so one better than me. I got perhaps he couldn't sleep. Think about the signs that Jesus did. Busy schedule, and if he was seen talking to Jesus after he cleansed the temple in John 2, that he would have been seen as having bad taste in Jewish eyes. And also it's seen as a time of study as common among rabbis.
Yeah. But and this is my own thing here. Whatever reason he come, that's what we need to see. He come to Jesus. And why? Well, it's because the signs. He's seen it, you know. He come to Jesus. So whatever reason Nicodemus came to Jesus, it don't matter if he was scared or the best time of the day. The main thing is he came to Jesus to talk to him about spiritual matters because he was concerned. Mm-hmm. And so I think he realized that God was with him, and that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of John, the book of John, right there. God's with him, you know.
Yeah. Who's the we, do you think? We know you are a teacher sent from God. Who do you think the we there is?
I would assume it's some more Pharisees, more Jews.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming. I mean, who else would it have been? I mean,
Kaufman, his commentary says it's likely talking about the Sanhedrin itself.
Yeah. I always assumed it. I'll look in a little bit at next week. But yeah, it had to be, you know, it had to be the rest of the Sanhedrin or whoever.
Yeah.
Nicodemus couldn't have been the only one. I mean, I know we normally group the Pharisees and these Sadducees, and we group them all, you know, just all bad people. I think there was a good bit of them. You know, there's more than one just Nicodemus that say, hey, man, you know, how? Because you got to think about it. They haven't seen no prophet or anybody hasn't done no sign or anything in 400 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like Jesus is on this street corner doing these signs, and then you can go 2 street corners over and there's some other hick doing some signs. No. And it goes back, it takes you think forward to Simon the sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like there's some trickery here.
Right.
It wasn't some of these things that Jesus was doing, it wasn't trickery. And, you know, that's what, you know, Simon the sorcerer noted, like, hey, you know, what they're doing is real. What I'm doing, you know, so they've seen this. They've seen that God was with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And the application that I want that I got out of this, if you have any kind of spiritual question, spiritual concern about the kingdom or your soul, go to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, and we do that today by going to His Word and studying His Word, and that's where we get our answers from today, from Jesus. That's why I when I read that first two verses, I was like, yeah, he just, man, it don't really matter. He just went to Jesus, man. That's all he did. He went to the right place.
Yeah. I've got a little bit more here.
Go ahead.
So signs were meant to be faith-finding and faith-building, John 20, 30, and 31. However, this alone is not enough to invoke faith, as the devil himself can make miracles, or create miracles. You can't forget about the Egyptian magicians. Who were able to, up to a certain point,